Dr. Durga Prasad, Mr. Vinod Malhotra, respected members of the faculty, dear students, friends. Gives me great pleasure, in fact, it's a privilege for me to be here this morning to see personally for myself an institution that I've heard a lot about. The Jaipuria family, as we all know, since I grew up in Allahabad in UP, I've always heard about the Jaipuria school and the Jaipuria family. But this is the first occasion on which I have had the privilege of coming and seeing the excellent facilities and the campus of the Jaipuria School of Management. And I must congratulate all of you, I must compliment you for having created this kind of world-class infrastructure. I'm sure the students who are entering into this program will have an excellent and very productive couple of years over here. I think it's a 2-year course. So you must make the most of it. In fact, a lot of the things that I wanted to say were already contained in the excellent speech of Mr. Shishir Jaipuria. He spoke, he touched upon a number of things of the initiatives of the government, some of the programs that the Prime Minister has announced. He dwelled upon some of the important things that we need to do in terms of our own careers and how we should be more useful and skillful to the employers. So let me just pick up on some of the threads that, sir, that you had spoken about. First, I think coming on to some of the changes that India is seeing today. You know, I have had the occasion and feel proud that I've been able to spend my time both in government as well as a lot in the private sector. I was one of the lucky ones who could get away and then also come back. If I could give you a few illustrations from my own career, you know, after I did my engineering, you know, like every bright kid, I did my ISc in Allahabad, did fairly well because we were very hardworking young children and our parents were both professors in the University of Allahabad. So the children of professors always tend to be told that padhai nahi karoge to fir kya karoge. So I got into engineering, and after that, lo and behold, everyone was writing the IAS exam in Allahabad those days. So I wrote the IAS exam. But at the same time, I also got admission in IIM Calcutta and at one or two more colleges and a college in the US. But I also happened to qualify for the IAS in my first attempt. And then the pressure on me was humongous. Almost all of our respected elders and people from the city came and advised me on what has to be done. Nahi, IAS karoge to ye ho jayega, wo ho jayega, baki sab cheezein chodo. The reason I want to bring out this point is to say that in these 23 years that I have spent in the IAS, and fortunately I have been allowed to spend time outside also, it is a wonderful career which gives you all kinds of variety and the opportunity to serve the people and to make a difference. In a few minutes, I will be talking about some of the changes that we are seeing in our country, so you will be able to relate to what excites me about the service. But equally well, it is true that we will not be able to spend, those times are gone when students like you, bright young kids, used to come out of MBA schools and spend 20, 30 years in the same career in the same company. Those times have gone, right? So it's important to focus on what excites you, what brings out your passion and what your interests are, which is something also that Mr. Jaipuria was talking about. Think about what you want to do, think about what your interests are, develop those skills, and then gravitate on to what your interests are. So I decided to get into the IAS, but lo and behold, I was a little bored after 4 or 5 years. I was asked to set up IIM Calicut in Kerala. Then I said to myself, why don't I go do my own MBA? So the only institute I applied to was London Business School, simply because it was not as far as the USA where my brother was, and my parents wanted one of the children to be closer to India. So I went to London Business School and then had the opportunity to work into investment banking in equity research for a number of years, both in London and back in Bombay. But then when I turned 40 a couple of years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, and I had become a managing director in investment banking, I said to myself, look, we are going to go through a sea of changes in the country. This is one of the bright spots in the global economy. What am I doing? Fine. I'm creating a lot of wealth for myself and my family. I'm doing well for myself. But at the age of 60, at the age of 65, when I hang up my boots, how do I want to look back on the time that I spent on my own career? So therefore, again, a question of not only interests and passion, but also of having made a difference to society at large came up. And that was when I took the call to give up those dollar salaries and come back into government. And let me tell you, since the time I have come back, I have not had a moment of regret. I was one of the fortunate few who, although I was in a system, the IAS is a generalist system, you should expect to be posted anywhere, and you are picked up for your generalist skills, and very rightly so, right? Because you are in the districts, you are collectors, you are commissioners, you are this and that. But I was lucky because my chief secretaries, my seniors, my chief ministers recognized me for what I could be utilized for. I was put in charge of building a port in Kerala, the port which has just been awarded 2 months ago to Adani's. It is an international port. And then I was picked up in the Ministry of Finance and the Department of Economic Affairs, not only just in the Ministry of Finance, but to deal with a subject which was my specialization, that is foreign investment, foreign portfolio flows, external commercial borrowing. And then there was an opportunity which arose in the infrastructure financing side. So I had done my bit in policy in the ministry, but I also had a passion for still wanting to be in the corporate side. So this present job where I work for direct project financing of infrastructure in the country gives me an opportunity not only to marry my skills together, to use that combination, but also to make that difference. Now, this whole story of how my career has evolved, I hope would serve as something for you to chew upon, to think upon. As you think about your own careers, you are at that milestone in life where you're entering your management program. After 2 years, you will be entering the corporate world. Think very carefully as to how you want to use your time. I always tell my children who are very young, I tell them, look, in the first 20, 25, 30 years of our life, our parents have to force us, have to tell us to study. But then we reap the benefits of that for the rest of our lives, till we die. But look at some of the other examples. I tell them about some other people who did not do so well. See, this is what he got into, this is what she did. She wasted her time, and she has had to struggle all her life. So think about the dividends that you stand to potentially reap. You are now on a platform like the Jaipuria School of Management, which is known nationally and even internationally. You have excellent and distinguished faculty here to impart you that interests, and then choose to do what you want to do. Which actually brings me to the next thing that I wanted to talk to you about, which is opportunities available to people like yourself, like us in this country and internationally. Our Prime Minister is talking about the Make in India program. Make in India is all about creation of jobs. You've seen in the late 90s and the early part of this century, a lot of the IT boom, number of IT companies have come and jobs have been created. Mr. Jaipuria was giving the examples of some of the top e-commerce players that have now sprouted in the country. Currently, we are going through an e-commerce boom. We are going through a startup and entrepreneurship boom in the country. So you are lucky to be at a situation, at a time in the country where there is opportunities galore. You don't just have to look at that typical traditional corporate career, an investment bank or a consulting company or a manufacturing house. Those are also excellent careers, and maybe you will evolve as you grow. But you could also think in terms of one of these startups. You could think in terms of entrepreneurship. You could think in terms of taking some risk. Like the founders of your institute, they are entrepreneurs. They set up things. They created wealth. In the process, they have served society and they have made a difference, right? They're running schools of education. They're running these institutes. So think big. Don't think small. And then focus on to what you want to do. So use these next 2 years to think about the kind of opportunities that you could get onto. I was talking about the Make in India program. The person who's spearheading that, Mr. Amitabh Kant, is actually a senior officer of mine. He was my boss in Kerala. Very dynamic person, but the entire vision of the Prime Minister and Mr. Amitabh Kant is about the creation of those opportunities, of inviting foreign investment into the country and companies to invest in India. How will that happen? Why will that happen? The reason companies will come into India is because that other parts of the world, for example Europe, or even the US, are at point of saturation. They can only grow so much, but not more. Which are the hotspots in the global economy are China and India. Arguably, China is at a different phase now where there is a slowdown. But India still can reap the benefits of consumption, of the demographic dividend that you might have heard about. And that demographic dividend is nothing but skillful youngsters and skillful young people in the workforce like yourselves. So that is why the Prime Minister is talking about this program of creation of jobs. However, is it important simply to have skilled workforce? Or is there a risk that if you skill too many people, if you have a large pool which is being added to the skilled workforce every year, but at the same time you're not able to provide them the commensurate opportunities, what will happen to society? There will be all kinds of strains and pulls which we are already witnessing. The level of unemployment in our country is extremely high. There are people in Kerala that I have seen who are PhDs, who are highly qualified, who are bus conductors. So therefore, it is the duty of people like some of the people that you see in front of you, of your teachers, of your professors and administrators, to ensure that the country is able to develop in such a way that you have opportunities that are commensurate with your expectations and your aspirations. That is what this program is about. None of these programs, whether it is the Make in India program or the Smart City program, Digital India, which Mr. Jaipuria was talking about, none of these programs can really be 100% successful without proper infrastructure. Which brings me on to the job that I am currently involved with, infrastructure financing. If you are not, you will see in the state of UP. I am from UP and I'm very proud to be from UP. However, I have traveled around the country, I have conducted elections in the Prime Minister's home state of Gujarat, and I have worked in Maharashtra, some of the more progressive southern states. You compare what is happening to some of our states, UP, MP, Bihar, etc., and you see the progress in these other states. The gap is yawning, the gap is shocking. Why is that gap so? There are various reasons. I don't want to go into the reasons of governance, the reasons of corruption, the reasons of the kind of coalition politics or the regional politics. But what I want to say is the development of infrastructure in those states, in the west or in the south, has been humongous. Whereas infrastructure in my own home state of UP, where I am currently standing, leaves much to be desired. We were at a meeting recently where the Chhattisgarh Chief Secretary, some of you may know Chhattisgarh is a state which is blessed with natural resources. The Chhattisgarh Chief Secretary was actually lamenting that today he is generating excess power. He has surplus power, but there is nobody to buy, nobody to take that power from him. What are the reasons? Well, the power deficient states like UP and Tamil Nadu, which need that electricity, are not in a position to buy electricity. Why are they not in a position to buy electricity? Because the state discoms, the SEBs, you all know about their financial health. They are in huge debt, they are defaulting. Why are they defaulting? Because we have been going and distributing, we've had populist policies which are responsible for these. Similarly, the coal secretary of the country was lamenting in that very same meeting about how he has record production of coal. And he has coal, huge inventories of coal lying, but there's nobody to pick up that coal. Do we not need that kind of coal and electricity? Yes, we do. You travel around to Lucknow, you will see what is the state of our countryside today. But unfortunately, it's an issue of infrastructure development, it's an issue of financial health, it's an issue of governance. Most importantly, the lesson in all of this for people like you, promising youngsters who are starting their lives, is do something, try to make a difference, and try and take responsibility, not only for your own actions, but for those who live around you. If you see something which is wrong, go out and protest. If you see corruption in any way, don't be a part of it. Try and complain, try to bring those people to book. Okay, right, so there are too many messages in the last 5-10 minutes that I've spoken. I've spoken about my own career to set you an example. I have spoken about skills, I've spoken about the need to develop jobs and manufacturing, I've spoken about infrastructure development, and then the larger goal of following your passion and your interest to try and make a difference. There's a lot in that for you to take from. I would be delighted if at least some of you went back, mulled over this, digested this, and reflected. And if some of these things could make a difference to your own lives, my whole task in coming to here on this occasion and being in front of you would have been achieved, and I would consider myself blessed. With those few words, sir, I thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Of course, when my sister, Dr. Rachna Sharma, mentioned that here is a function which is being organized and she would like me to come, I grabbed that opportunity because I wanted to come and visit your campus, but it's a pleasure for me to meet you and talk to you today. I wish you all the very best in your future studies, not only here, but as you go forward with your careers. Thank you very much.